Mr. Brookter? Here. Mr. Spees? Here. Mrs. Thomas? Here. Mr. Guidry?
Here.
Mr. Ballantyne?
Here.
Mr. Blash?
Here.
Mr. Daly?
Here.
Mr. Chairman, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Just a few public announcements before we go ahead and get started. With regard to appeals, any aggrieved party may appeal a decision of the BOA to the district court. Speaker cards, if you would like to speak in favor or against any of the cases on the agenda today, this is what the speaker card looks like, and they are available for you to fill out on this corner podium here. Public speaking, 10 minutes for each side of the case, and then 5 minutes for rebuttal. And if you have to exit the room to speak on a cell phone or speak to someone, please remember to exit the building. If you're in the lobby, we can still hear you in this particular room, so just exit the building. So with that being said, we will move forward. Has everyone on the board had an opportunity to review the minutes of the May 4th, 2021 meeting?
Yes, sir.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I have a comment.
We have a comment? Sure. Go ahead.
In the minutes, there's something about attendance of the board members, and I would like to bring that, I would not bring it up now, but I would like to bring it up under old business when we do at the end of meetings. If that please the board. And the second thing is I will refer to item number 6, which was in the minutes, which was case numbers 2338 and 2339, and I will refer to those later during the review and under another case.
Sure.
So I reserve the right to refer back to those two cases.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second to approve the minutes. All those in favor, would you please vote using your screens?
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to the public hearing portion of the agenda. I see we have case number 2021-2330, which was postponed from the May 4th meeting, which has now been withdrawn. I don't think we need a vote on that withdrawn. Okay, good. So just make note of that. And BOA case, moving on to the next case, BOA case 2021-2342 was also postponed from the May 4th meeting, and I'm under the understanding that this is going to be postponed again.
There's a request to postpone as well, yeah.
We have a request by the applicant to postpone. Chair would entertain a motion from the board to accept that.
I'd like to make a motion to postpone case number 2342 to our July meeting.
Thank you. Do we have a second? Second. All those in favor of postponing the case, please vote using your screens.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Okay, moving forward on the agenda, BOA case number 2021-2367. This is a request by applicant in an A4 single-family residential zoning district to reduce the required rear yard setback from 20 feet to 15 feet to allow for the construction of a single-family residence with an attached back porch. The property is located south side of South Lakeshore Drive, Covington, Louisiana. The applicant is William B. and J. Renee Sofji. Would you read the staff comments, please?
The objective of the request is to allow for the placement of an attached back porch within a portion of the rear yard setback. There's no compelling reason to be in favor of the request, considering that no evidence of hardship or practical difficulties has been demonstrated since the size of the proposed porch could be reduced to meet the required rear yard setback requirement.
Is the applicant or applicant representative present? Yes, would you please come forward? Please state your full name and address for the record.
J. Renee Southie, 15520 Magnus Lane, Covington.
Talk in the microphone.
Think,
Want me to say it again?
not sure if that
Turn
microphone
it
is on. Let me get that mic on.
It's green.
It's green? Okay, let's try this again then.
Okay. J. Renee Southie, 15520 Magnus Lane, Covington.
I'm sorry? I think it's still off.
I think it's still off too.
Yeah.
I guess I ought to pause this while we're.
Yes, please. Try it now? Oh, good, thank you. Just give us 1 second to get resettled. Okay, let's try this again. Please state your full name and address.
J. Renee Southie, 15520 Madras Lane, Covington.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
And I'm William Bruce Softgee, same address.
Same address? Thank you. Do you have anything else to add to the case?
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah, we believe there are some extenuating circumstances. Please help guide me through this. This is our first time here.
No problem. Take your time.
All right, so we bought 2 lots on Lake Ramsey, lots 86 and 87. We have resubbed those. Last month that was approved into lot 86A. So the lot is 100 feet deep, but it's curved because the lot line's curved. And so that cuts the corners of the house. With the setbacks, we only have 55 feet to build on. And then the curves further reduces that because the house is not curved, it's square. The land is actually curving all the way around. And so the concern from the HOA was there'll be no one behind me, there's just a lake. We're right on the lake. And so we've provided graphics and pictures. We've got letters from the neighbors on either side supporting us, letters from the HOA supporting us. And because of the curved nature, you can actually see in the pictures that the neighbors on either side would not have their views of the lake impacted. The house that we want to build is the HGTV 2020 Dream Home. And we've already cut the front porch back significantly on that design. And really, the lovely part of it is the back porches on each story. So what would be in the setback would only be an open porch.
And it's the middle part of the porch, just one segment of the porch.
Is that the drawing you're referencing?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that the drawing?
Thank you.
There's a little shaded part on the drawing showing what would be in the setback.
Okay. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And let me just, if you have a picture that looks like this, there's a
we
little
do.
flag here, and if you kind of try to line your eye with the neighbor's property, you can see that their property line would actually extend way past this, from their porch line, so.
Okay. Is there anyone here in the audience that wishes to speak in opposition to this case? Seeing none, I'll entertain questions from the board. I see Mr. Ballantyne. You had requested to speak?
Yes. You could reduce the size of the porch just a smidge, and then you wouldn't need the variance. Why don't you just reduce the size of the porch?
Because it ruins the look of the back of the house. If we had a picture of the furnished house that's completed, that portion that sticks out makes the sight lines, of the porch look so much better than just a flat porch all the way across the back. It reduces the square footage of the porch. It reduces the usability of the porch.
Mr. Ballantyne?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to approve the request for the variance as submitted.
We have a motion to approve. Do I have a second? Second. We have a second. Any further comments from the board? Seeing none, would everyone please vote using their screens?
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good luck with your project.
Thank you so much.
Okay, moving forward with case 2021-2383, request by applicant in an A2 suburban zoning district to, number one, increase the maximum allowable height of a cellular tower from 250 feet to 310 feet. Number two, reduce the required side yard setback from 310 feet to 300 feet on the east side. Number three, reduce the required rear yard setback of 310 feet to 20 feet on the south side. Number four, reduce the required side yard setback on the west side from 310 feet to 288 feet and 6 inches. Number five, reduce the required rear yard setback for the cellular tower equipment from 25 feet to 7 feet. The property is located at 24622 Louisiana Highway 40, Bush, Louisiana. The applicant is Michael Jenkins, and the representative is New Singular Wireless, PCS LLC, DBA AT&T Mobility. Staff comments, please.
As per the Unified Development Code, the height of a cell tower shall not exceed 250 feet. The associated site plan shows the location of a proposed 310-foot self-support cell tower. The need for the facility is driven by the state of Louisiana's desire for FirstNet capabilities and additional coverage in the area. FirstNet high-speed nationwide wireless broadband network is dedicated to contribute to the enhancement of the public safety in the surrounding area and to the citizens of St. Tammany Parish. The 310-foot high tower is also necessary in order to meet the demand of service in the area and provide adequate coverage and capacity, because the proposed tower is located several miles from other towers and due to the surrounding area being densely wooded. Per the Development Code, also, towers located on a private property shall be set back the same distance equal to the height of the tower, or shall conform to the setback established under the underlying zoning. Here, setbacks variance requests are being on the north, south, east, and west sides. The tower is proposed to be located within the southern portion of the parent tract to minimize the setback variances needed. It has been determined that a hardship or practical difficulty appears to exist on the east and west sides, since the property is approximately 600 foot wide. Although the tower is only proposed to be located 20 feet from the rear property line, it will be more than 500 feet from the nearest residential and accessory building. A main concern in the event of a tower collapse is regarding the fact that the tower is proposed to be located within 155 feet from an existing residence on the west and within 250 feet of an existing barn on the north side. The radius of the collapsed area could create health and safety concerns for any occupants and could cause serious damage to the residence or the barn. Note that the structural analysis has been provided by the applicant, stating that should one or more of the tower's elements fail, the tower is designed to fold over onto a portion of the tower below the failure location. Consequently, the fall radius of the facility is less or equal to 150 feet, which would not impact the existing structures on the property, adjacent properties, or any other public right-of-way. The above statement and the fact that the need for the tower is driven by the state of Louisiana's desire to contribute to the enhancement of the public safety of the citizens of St. Tammany Parish makes staff more inclined to be in support of the requested waivers.
Thank you. Thank you. You're the representative.
Yes, good afternoon. Chip Lyons, 201 St. Charles, New Orleans, here on behalf of AT&T Wireless, which is seeking to construct the tower on Mr. Jenkins' property. I will just show you real quickly before and after coverage maps for the area for AT&T to show the need for the tower. This is where the tower would go. Blue areas are actually areas right now that have really not much coverage from AT&T. Red areas are the best. That would be indoor coverage. Yellow areas generally track to coverage in a car, and then green areas are outdoor coverage. So right now, in this area of Bush, there's a pretty significant coverage gap. These are other AT&T towers, but the signals from those towers don't reach to this area. So if this tower goes in, you add a significant area of indoor coverage, better in-car and better outdoor coverage. The tower also, as Ms. Lambert mentioned, is designed to have FirstNet capability, which is a dedicated first responder system that AT&T is constructing both in Louisiana and nationwide, and they do work with the state to try and pinpoint FirstNet locations, and this is one that was requested by the state. Given current circumstances, AT&T sees this as an important investment in broadband coverage for this area because of the amount of work, school, shopping, everything that people now do on devices. There are over, I guess nationwide, over 500,000 calls per day to 911 on cellular devices, and believe 80% of those are from indoors, so it's important for residents to have indoor coverage as well as for first responder system. So that's the reason for the request in this particular location. The height variance is because towers need to communicate with each other. The signal that comes from the tower is a radio signal. So your phone is sort of an incredible mini computer, but the signal going back and forth is a radio signal. So because of the distance in this area, topography, the amount of woods on the amount of trees in the area, the tower is designed to at 300 feet, so it'll effectively propagate the signal and also communicate effectively with other towers of comparable height in the area. As to the specific location, so this shows you where we're proposing to put it. The east property line is approximately in this area. Initially, it was much closer over here. We asked the landowner if we could move it back into the middle of the property to keep it away from the residential property over here. So we're about 300 feet from the property line here and over 400 feet from the nearest residence. The property here, where we have the 20-foot setback, is also owned by our landowner. It's a separate tract of land, so we have to request the variance, but Mr. Jenkins owns this property and he owns this property. And then the structures here, where the tower is less than 300 feet, are structures on our landowner's property. And going back to this, yes, sir.
Hold on. Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, and real quickly, going back to the setback issue, the tower is 300 feet, 10-foot lightning rod, so it's 310 feet. This is a self-support tower, sort of three-sided latticework tower. Towers are designed by tower engineers so that if there is a structural issue, essentially they have sort of a fail point designed into the tower so that if wind load or something else exceeds the tower design, instead of the tower coming down like a tree, 310 feet, the tower is designed to collapse on itself. So effectively, the fall radius is 150 feet or less. And as pointed out in the staff report, there are no structures that are less than 150 feet from the proposed tower location. So I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
1 second.
Sure.
Is there anyone in the audience here to speak in opposition to this case? Seeing none, we can entertain questions from the board. Mr. Valentine?
My first question goes to the staff, Ross and Helen. We didn't have any specs, and I don't want any specs, But engineering has reviewed, this tower and,
Yes, sir.
okay, so it's all been reviewed and it's a standard. We've done a bunch of these. And I think, isn't the regulation in review to change this so we don't have to keep giving a variance on one falling 300 feet when it only fall 150?
We're in the plan, we're currently reviewing the code, and eventually, once it's approved, we will
Thank you.
move forward.
All right, got one question for you. Hold up
Yes,
that photograph again. To my left, what's over there? He doesn't own that property.
No, that's more than, this is about 280
Okay.
or 90 feet from the right-of-way.
That's it.
I have a question for staff, similar to what Mr. Ballantyne was asking. Usually, we see a letter in our package, structural analysis that the pole will fold in half. Do we know if we have that on this case?
Yes, it's been provided, and
Okay.
I apologize.
Oh, you saw it? Okay, thank
I
you.
don't have it.
I didn't see it in my
It wasn't
package.
in my package.
Yeah,
Like I said, I don't want it anyway.
Yeah, as long as you all have it
Yeah,
on file.
it was
Okay,
provided,
it's fine.
yes.
As long as you all have it. we're
Looking
good.
at it.
I've got a copy and it was submitted with the
No problem.
application.
Yeah.
Sometimes we see that in the package, and in this case, we
I
did
will
it.
do my best to include it
No
in the
problem.
No,
future.
You can leave it out of
It
mine.
was under
Good.
E, engineer, call letter, but it wasn't in the package.
It wasn't in.
I knew I'd read
Okay,
that it was provided.
thank you. Mr. Daly?
Yes. The rezone application, is that for both sites, both parcels, or just the northern parcel?
It's the rezone is really just for the portion
Oh, it's-
of the property where the tower compound would go. And that
okay.
was approved by Planning Commission, and it's being introduced in front of the council, I believe, on Thursday.
Mr. Spees, do you have a comment?
I just wanted to ask a question. That second one where you say the setback has been changed for the rear from 310 feet to 20 feet, that's a lot. Why is that?
Because, this is the rear property line. Our property owner owns this property, all the property to the south, so it's a separate lot of record. So we still need to get a setback, but functionally, within the property that our landowner owns, this is 500 feet, I guess, down to that, more than 500 feet down to that structure there. So that was the reason for having the tower located here. It's near the property line, but it's common ownership. So there's no, at this time, there'd be no neighbor to the south who would have an issue with that location. And that's, again, sort of a pre-existing condition of the property.
Mr. Brookter, you have a comment?
What happens if your owner want to sell that property to the south there?
Right. So if he did, I think anyone who would be interested in buying that property, one, would know that the tower's there and that it's been presumed, if the variance is approved, permitted and approved, and there's still, I think it's like any property where if you're going in and there's a tower there, then you know the tower's there. So it's not a situation where someone owns property and something has changed that they're not aware of. So at that point, they would know what's there and can decide. And the tower, again, is designed to, if there is an issue, fall within that 150-foot radius.
Mr. Ballantyne?
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the request for variance as requested.
We have a motion and a second. Are there any discussion amongst the board? Seeing none, please vote using your screens.
Motion carries.
All right,
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, with regard to the next case, I would make a motion to approve it in the interest of saving time. This is the same lot like we approved two cases in last month. In the month of May, we approved two lots that are right next to it, so I would make a motion, we approve this, being consistent with our previous action.
Mr. Valentine, we're going to read the case first, just so we have it in the record, and then we'll expedite the case.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I'll shut up.
Thank you. Okay, this is case 2021-2384. This is a request by applicant in a planned unit development overlay for a reduction of the required side yard setbacks from 15 feet to 10 feet on each side to allow for the construction of a single-family residence. The property is located at 402 Rue Charlotte, Madisonville, Louisiana, and the applicant is L&H Homes, Brandy Heath. Staff comments, please.
The objective of the request is to allow for the construction of a 70-foot wide residence instead of 60-foot wide residence and allow the same 10-foot side yard setback required on lots 6 to 18 and lots 23 to 25. There's no compelling reason to be in favor of the request, considering that no hardship or practical difficulty has been demonstrated. The current 15-foot side yard setback will not prevent for the construction of a single-family residence since the property is 90-foot wide.
Is the applicant or representative present? Would you please state your name and your full address?
Brandy Heath, 119 Tranquility Drive, Mandeville, Louisiana, 70471.
All right, would you have anything else to add to the case?
That's it.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone
Thank
in the audience here to speak in opposition to this case? Seeing none? Mr. Valentine?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the request for variance as requested.
We have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. We have a second. Please vote using your screens.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving forward with case number 2021-2385, request by applicant in an HC 3 Highway Commercial Zoning District to remove the existing trees within the required street buffer along Highway 11, remove the existing trees within the southern buffer, waive the required 4-foot fence around the cemetery, increase the maximum allowable square footage of a single occupancy monument sign, increase the maximum allowable square footage of a fascia sign. The property is located on Highway 11 and Fricky Road, Slidell, Louisiana. The applicant and representative, Industrial Drive LLC and Southeast Investments LLC. Staff comments, please.
In regards to variance 1 and 2, there is a request to remove all the existing trees within the required street buffer along Highway 11 and also within the southern buffer. And after reviewing the tree survey and inspecting the site, it's been determined that the existing trees located within the Highway 11 buffer, also within the southern buffer, are in very poor condition and have very little or no quality landscape value. So there's no objection to the request, since the proposed number of Class A trees, Class B trees, and shrub to be planted on the site will exceed the minimum required caliper inches and definitely contribute to the enhancement of the Highway 11 corridor as well as the southern buffer. In regards to requests for waiver number 3, which is to waive the required 4-foot fence around the cemetery. While no evidence of hardship or practical difficulties have been provided to warrant the support of the request, the required 4-foot perimeter fence will not provide adequate security or aesthetic benefit considering the size of the site. Note that the increase of the width of the landscape buffer from 30 to 50 feet, the addition of larger Class A and Class B trees, and the increase in the number of required shrub will make the site more aesthetically pleasing and create an open park-like atmosphere. Additional earth berms are also proposed to be provided within the landscape buffer to help define the perimeters of the Cemetery, thank you. In regards to the request for the waiver for the signage, while no walk-in buildings are proposed to be located on the site, which would allow for the placement of a fascia sign along each frontage facing a street or parking lot, a 32 square foot monument sign is allowed along Highway 11 and along Fricky Road. The request is to allow for a 47 square foot sign to be placed on the front of one of the proposed 35 foot long and 6 by 6 foot tall niche wall facing Highway 11. No hardship has been demonstrated to support the request. Should the board be in favor of the request, it should be subject to the stipulation that no additional signs be allowed along the road frontages.
Thank you. Mr. Shane, I'm assuming you're representing the applicant?
Yes, sir.
Would you please state your full name and address?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. Jeff Shane of the Jones Fussell Law Firm at P.O. Box 1810 in Covington. I represent the petitioners, Industrial Drive LLC and Southeast Investments LLC. And we come to you this afternoon seeking some variances with regard to Audubon Garden Cemetery. I represent Mr. Chris Jean, who's with me this evening and who is the owner of Audubon Funeral Home and also is developing Audubon Garden Cemetery. Hopefully some of you may have seen it on the west side of Highway 11, just north of I-12. We come to you, of course, with 5 separate requests. We've worked closely with staff, and I appreciate the study that staff has made of our requests because I viewed their comments today to be very favorable. A couple of points I'd like to make, and then I think it would be better to have you ask questions of me if you have concerns. I think it would be important to know that rather than the typical 30-foot front buffer that you would typically have, in this instance, there's a 50-foot front buffer. That is in part due to the centerline requirements off of Highway 11, but as a practical matter, we're going to end up with more green space, not less. The second point I would make is that for the most part, as staff has noted, we have very poor quality trees and underbrush, really scrubby, trashy type stuff that you would typically remove. Don't picture beautiful hardwoods or anything else. And so we believe that this is an opportunity to not only establish grade A or superior landscaping, but I've given you some photographs that hopefully have come down the dais as I have been speaking to let you see the landscaping theme that Mr. Jean has already created in front of Audubon Funeral Home. Well, obviously now we just want to continue that theme. The third point is with regard to the fence requirement, which I find a little odd, not necessarily being critical of it, but I did not know that cemeteries had a 4-foot fence requirement. And I really kind of scratched my head a little bit on the 4 feet. I think most of us would, not that 4 feet's 2 feet, but 4 feet's not 6 feet, meaning that it's obviously, I don't think the intent was to do it for security purposes. And so if you take a look at what we have done and what we hope to do at this facility is that we're creating a park-like atmosphere. We want it to be open. We want it for people to feel as if they're in a spacious environment. We will have various landscape features that create some confines, if you will, meaning that it defines the site. Certainly, I appreciate staff commenting about the earthen berms that will be in place, but also the niche wall, which we're going to discuss in just a minute, which will be out along Highway 11. So we're not sure that a 4-foot fence is needed, and we think that whatever purpose it might have served, aesthetically, we are not only going to do something that's certainly commensurate, but I think it's really going to be superior to that when we finish the site. Because we want to have a continuum of what we have created really in front of Chris's office building, then in front of his funeral home facility, and now, of course, in front of the garden. And so last but not least, that brings us to the sign issue, where we have requested a variance with regard to size. But I've given each of you a drawing so that hopefully you can not only see what we have in mind, but understand that we've tried to keep it in scale. This is a niche wall. This is part of the facility itself. We do not have buildings in the facility. We are more than content to stipulate in the record, as staff has suggested, that if you see fit to grant our variance with regard to the total square footage of our signage, that we would forego any rights that we would have to have signs on the side street, or if we put a building up later, on the building. We don't need anything but really one identifier. And I think you can appreciate that for those in the public that would be visiting our facility, particularly for the first time, how many times have all of us struggled trying to find something that we're going to for the first time? We really want to make sure that we've got adequate signage, particularly on a state highway, to make it easy for people to know where the garden is. And we think that that accomplishes that. So we've got a landscape architect, Al Barcia, that's with me this evening, that really is the architect of this entire plan. And we are excited about the opportunity of extending not only our investment, but also creating an opportunity for the people of Slidell and really for all of St. Tammany Parish, if they see fit, to come visit our funeral home, visit our garden, and perhaps at some point in time we can be of service to them. If any of you have any questions, I'll be glad to address them at the appropriate time.
Thank you. Did I understand you to have a video?
We do. I don't know if it is loaded and ready, but if you'd like to see it, we'd be glad to show it.
Did you
Okay,
bring,
We
your
brought a laptop?
laptop?
Yes.
So there should be.
Would you like to see it? It's no different than basically what you see in the photos. But again, that's why we brought it. What is your
Board
pleasure?
would like to see it?
No, I'm
No.
good.
I'm good. I'm good.
Thank you.
I'm good. Okay, thank you. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in opposition to this variance request? Seeing none, would the board have any questions for the applicant? I see Mr. Ballantyne.
I really don't have a question. I was just wanting to comment on Mr. Shane's presentation. That funeral home is the prettiest thing on Highway 11. If you go from the bridge to Mississippi, that's it's the nicest place on Highway 11. Well, your landscape architect's here, and my hat's off to him. I know they wouldn't do anything on that facility that ain't first class. I'm gonna make a motion.
Thank you. Any further questions from the board? Nope.
I'll make a motion to,
Oh, we do have another question from the board.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, hold you.
I'll shut up.
Mr. Brookter? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Go on, Bill.
Go ahead.
I make a motion to approve the request for all the variances, subject to that stipulation, and put it in the record that they wouldn't put any signs on the side. But I'd like to approve all the variances as requested.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please vote using your screens.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Good luck with your project. Moving forward with case number 2021-2386, request by applicant in an A4 single-family residential zoning district to reduce the side yard setbacks on each side from 22 feet to 10 feet to allow for the construction of a single-family residence. The property is located at 291 Carr Drive, Slidell, Louisiana, and the applicant and representative is Mark Drago. Staff comments, please.
According to the Unified Development Code, A4 Single Family Residential Zoning District, there shall be two side yard, one on each side of the building, having a minimum width of 10 feet, plus one additional foot for each 1 foot in building height over 20 feet above the base flood elevation. According to the above regulation, and due to the fact that the residence is proposed to be constructed 4 foot above the base flood elevation, a minimum of 22-foot side yard setbacks are required to be provided. There is no compelling reason to be in favor of the request, considering that the height and the size of the residence could be reduced to meet the setback requirements.
Thank you. Is the applicant or representative present?
Good afternoon.
Would you please state your full name and address for the
Mark
record?
Drago,
Thank you.
291 Car Drive, Slidell, Louisiana, 70458.
Do you have anything additional to add to your case?
I don't know where to start. Just requested the setbacks. That was the only problem. The front and back was fine. When me and James Macaluso, designed this house, I designed it for basically 3 generations of family. My 2 kids, my wife, my parents are elderly. I sold my house in Oak Harbor in December. I'm living with them. I'm starting to realize 78 and 76, they're getting up in age, and I'm not putting them in old folks' homes. So I decided to build this house large enough to accommodate all of us. And
I'm older than they are.
what's that?
I'm older than they are.
Well, you look good for your age, I can tell you that. So, the house is going to be, well-structured as far as the concrete columns. I'm going 4 foot above the BFE. That way it's strong as far as falling off, whatever. So, what else? Once we found out that the 10-foot setbacks was different, we basically lowered the first floor ceilings from 12 to 10, and then the second from 10 to 9. I'm going to try to revise it as best I could to try to meet the requirements, but I just don't think it's doable or practical without the variance. As you can see, I don't know if y'all have it or not, but I got letters from both neighbors specifying that the homeowners association as well as another homeowner or landowner on Car Drive as well.
Okay. That concludes your comments? Okay, thank you. Is anyone in the audience here to speak in opposition to this?
That's in favor.
Okay.
Against?
Okay, I do have, we're going to, oh, that's the next case, okay, sorry, we had the case wrong, sorry about that. I see no one here to speak in opposition, so the board may have some questions for you. Mr. Brookter?
Mr. Drago, your house will butt against the lake canal there on Car Drive?
It's on the lakeside.
Okay, that's,
Mr. Daly?
And this might also be a question for staff. When we elevate structures, so that elevated above the base flood elevation, adds to the calculation of the side setback, right? There's
That's
no
correct.
sort of provision for when you elevate to reduce setback. Okay.
I have a question. Oh, okay. I see you've put into your package 7 photos of homes. I assume that these are near,
That's right next, the top photo is right next door. It's also a 2-story.
okay. So,
Which
so
we
this-
slimlined the roof as low as we could get it. But yeah, that's my next door neighbor.
So-
She also signed a letter.
She signed the letter, and this is next door?
Correct.
I imagine most of these are very
All-
close proximity?
Correct.
Okay. And they all look to be,
2-story.
yeah. Would you say that they're similar in height to the plan that you've designed? And
Yes.
from the photos you have provided, or the plans you provided, it looks that way. And these all look to be pretty close to the property line.
Correct.
Okay. Yes, if you'd like to come up. Please state your name and full address.
My name's David Champagne. I'm a general contractor working with Mr. Drago. My address is 124 Kilgore Court in Slidell.
Thank you.
And I just wanted to mention I was with Mr. Drago when we visited with the neighbor on the left and on the right, and neither of them had any opposition to the house or the side yard setbacks, which are in fact similar to theirs. This house at 289 Car Drive, the one on the left side, the distance from the ground to the bottom of the framing members is the same as what he's proposing. The first floor of this house and the second floor of this house, since it's an old house, is 1 foot less than what he's proposing. So it's very similar to this house and almost all of those other pictures as far as the height of the house. And all of these pictures have 10-foot side yards or less. Some of them are less. So it's certainly not setting a precedent.
Thank you. Mr. Ballantyne, do you have a comment?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve the variance as requested.
We have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. We have a second. And any discussion? Seeing none, would everyone vote with your screens, please?
Motion carries.
Thank you. Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Okay. The next one, okay, yeah. Thank you. Okay, moving forward with the agenda, case 2021-2387, request by applicant in an A3 suburban zoning district to reduce the required rear yard setback from 24 feet to 17 feet to allow for the placement of a manufactured home on the property. The property is located at 432 4th Street, Slidell, Louisiana, and the applicant is Tamlin Investment Incorporated, Jamie Lindsay and Charles Tabor. Staff comments, please.
The objective of the request is to allow for the placement of a 1,216 square foot manufactured home on the property, 27 feet from the front property line to allow for a larger front yard and additional space for a wider driveway, and 17 feet from the rear property line. Staff determined that there's no compelling reason to recommend approval of the request, considering that no hardship has been demonstrated, although the property is on only 120 feet in depth. Meeting the setback requirements will not prohibit the placement of a manufactured home on the site.
Thank you. Is the applicant?
Hi, I'm Jamie Lindsay,
Okay.
81116 Highway 1083 in beautiful Bush.
Thank you. Do you have anything to add to your case?
Yes, sir. I'd like to start by adding that that through the original planning and zoning process, we always had a building there that was 16 feet by 80 feet on it, and during that time, we had no objections from any of the neighbors and so forth. The size of the house of 1,200 square feet. I looked at the standard stick-built speculation houses and track houses new to the area. They're 1,250 square feet to 1,450 square feet. So the size would go in comparison what is going into the neighborhood there. I've also checked on several of the newer manufactured homes in the area. There are several on 5th Street and 6th Street, 9th Street that are 16 by 76, the same size as ours, and most of them went in 2014 or later. There's a few of few early ones and a few setbacks from other manufactured homes in the area that are a little bit different there. This is for Mr. Tabor and his wife Kayleen. They're looking to make that their, they have a lot of years left, but they're looking for to make this their retirement place, and they want to downsize, and this would be very nice for them to do there. I could speak about other areas if you need me to, about mobile home sizes and lot sizes and so forth. But anyway, I hope you all approve it. Any questions?
Let me, 1 second.
Yes.
Does that conclude your comments?
Yes, sir.
Okay, is there anyone in the audience that wishes to speak in opposition to this case? Seeing none, does the board have questions for the applicant? I do have a question. I see on, and you have stated that you have, the building is 16 by 76, okay? But I do have a document in the file that says the building is 16 by 78. You can confirm that it's 16 by 76.
Be sure.
Oh, that's the bottom of the application.
Yeah, the bottom of the application.
I have it as 76 on the document, like 76? 76,
It's
sir.
76, okay. I just wanted to make sure that you were requesting the appropriate variance.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Ballantyne?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve the request for variance.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second? We have a second. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, would the board please vote using your screens?
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Mr. Bookter, you didn't vote?
Oh.
Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, did you vote in favor? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. You're welcome. Okay, here we go. Okay, moving forward with case 2021-2389, request by applicant in an A2 suburban zoning district for an after-the-fact variance to reduce the required rear yard setback from 19.2 feet to 4 feet to allow for the completion of the construction of a single-family residence. The property is located at 314 Fountain Street, Mandeville, Louisiana. The applicant is Cassandra Luquette, and the representative is Ricky Landry. Staff comments, please.
The after-the-fact request is to allow for the completion of the construction of a single-family residence. After issuance of the building permit and further review of the site plan, it was brought up to our attention that a portion of the rear porch and staircase was constructed within the rear yard setback. Note that only a portion of the porch, being 19.4 foot in width, will be encroaching within the rear yard setback.
Thank you. Is the applicant or the applicant representative present?
I was informed that they could not attend a meeting today.
Okay, so we have no one. Is there anyone here to speak in? Is there anyone here to speak in favor? Okay, is there anyone here to speak in opposition? And I do see that we have two cards. And the first is wishes to speak against Brett Falterman. The applicant's not here. Okay, they have to, okay. Yeah, we're going to have public comments, yes. We're going to allow public. Mr. Falterman, would you please state your full name and full address, please, for the record?
Yes, sir. Brett Falterman, and my address is 237 Oak Lane. It's in Mandeville, Louisiana. I appreciate the board's time.
Thank you.
I brought with me, I emailed some materials that I think was distributed to the board that covered the details of our opposition. I also brought with me a signed letter from the adjacent landowners in opposition. And I think you received a signed letter for a landowner that couldn't make it, and we have another nearby landowner. So our opposition is based on the fact that it's a giant house on a tiny lot, and it's caused some adverse flooding issues, and as well as some property damage. We've talked to the contractor. We haven't received the addressing of the flooding issues, and our concern is that if that's not addressed now, that these flooding issues in the area will never be addressed. So we ask that you don't approve this variance. We also are concerned that a mistake was made in the approval of the setback, and we would like that addressed. I'll keep it short, and if there are any questions for me.
Is there any questions for Mr. Falterman? Mr. Space? Okay. Mr. Valentine?
The variance request is on the back porch because we're not here about the size of the house or the size of the lot. The variance request is because the back porch goes into the setback. So that's the only issue. It's not about the house causing flooding or, other things.
Yes, sir, I understand that. And so my concern is that if drainage was addressed in the future, what's happened is they put a lot of fill on the lot, and the historic drainage was from the back of the lot to the street. And significant fill has been added to the middle of the lot, and now a large structure has been added to the middle of the lot that's diverted the flow of water away from the street into the setback. And if you allow a variance to within 4 feet of the property line, there'll be no chance in the future to address the drainage. That's our concern now. In the materials that I sent you, I have pictures of pooling water that didn't used to exist in that area. That's in the setback that's discussed, and that's the nature of our concern.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'm not sure if I have the information I was provided by, I'm sorry.
It's a Falterman.
Falterman.
Yeah.
But if that was to come my way, we could send, or I could forward it to the permits inspections director. While this is a piece of property that's under construction, he is, able to send inspectors out there and check to make sure that they are, expanding the scope of the permit with fill or anything else. So we can certainly push that along to that department and have them, go inspect it to make sure that, again, they didn't exceed the scope of the permit.
And Mr. Leinert, if I'm correct, I think that the permit department also does a drainage inspection.
That's correct.
At the forming
Yes.
stage, and then an additional drainage inspection prior to final occupancy being released.
That's correct. So inspections are ongoing, but,
Yeah.
sometimes things happen, and it's always good maybe just to put another set of eyes on it, just to make sure.
Okay, good.
Can I ask one question about the
Yes.
variance then? Are you saying that the variance, if approved, would apply only to the porch? Or would that then mean that the variance moving forward on the entire rear setback is 4 feet for all activities?
The variance that we are here is very specific and limited to what is stated in it, and it is regarding the
Okay.
porch.
It doesn't remove the setback requirements, only for what's, like the chairman stated.
Yes.
Sure. How do I submit the signed statements? Can I?
Sure.
Yeah,
Mr.
okay.
Leinert can take
Great.
those from you.
Thank you.
I think we have someone else that has a question for you. Ms. Thomas?
I have a question for staff. I read your comments, but I didn't see your recommendation.
We didn't necessarily put a recommendation, since the permit was issued,
That's what
very
I,
honestly.
that's what I thought. I just wasn't sure since the permit's always, has already been issued. Thank you.
Mr. Daly?
Staff clarification, is the variance to change the rear setback from 19.2 feet to 4 feet, or to remove 4 feet off of that and make it 15.2? I didn't know if it was a variance of 4
Well-
feet or to 4 feet.
To 4 feet. So in other words,
It
if you
is?
look at the staircase, the staircase
Oh, I
will
see,
be
it's the
4
tip
feet.
of the staircase,
Will
okay.
be 4 feet from the rear property line,
Got
and
it.
then you have the porch, the open porch that is.
Yeah,
in-
because the porch just was 5 feet encroaching and not, okay.
But it's only the size of the porch, which is 19.4 feet, that will extend, that portion will extend. It will not allow the homeowner to add on any more than that 19.4 feet.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Brookter?
Mr. Chair, I would
Yes.
like to postpone this case to, for next month. I think the person need to be here to make her statement. And I would like to make a motion to.
Mr. Brook, I have one additional speaker that would like to speak against this, so we want to make sure that we hear those comments before we have a motion. Please hold your motion. The next speaker who wishes to speak against is Barry Haendel. Would you please state your full name and full address? For
Barry Haendel, 233 Oak Lane, Mandeville, 70448.
Thank you.
I realize some of the issues are probably too late, but we were never informed. We never heard of any variance that was given. This is a 100-foot wide lot. It's an 80-foot wide house, two-story with a huge roof on it. And that water's got to go somewhere. It's going on my property. It's going on Brett's property into his house. And we were told it would be a little patio in the back. This is a big porch, 16 feet by 20 feet, by about 3 feet high. And the other thing is, they're going to add topsoil on this, about another 6 inches to 12 inches, which is going to make flooding even worse. The ditch doesn't drain. It should drain south and north. It doesn't drain either way. It's stopped up. So everything that goes out to the drainage, to the ditch, just kind of sits there. This is a big house on a little lot. The water's got to go somewhere. And it's going to go on my property, it's going to go on Brett's property, and the other neighbor's house as well. The side of the house, 7.5 feet from my property line. I don't know how that ever got approved. 7.5 feet? This thing looks like an elephant in a small room, this house. And I know that's all bypassed, all gone, but it seemed like we should have gotten a little bit more notice concerning this.
Thank you.
Thank you much.
Okay, just a question for staff to clarify. I'm looking at this plot plan, and it says 5-foot roof projection beyond rear setback line. That is simply a roof that is cantilevered, unsupported. Okay. All right. Do we know, and according to the plot plan, or at least my reading of the plot plan, it just doesn't seem to me like that variance is needed to be, the scale doesn't look like it needs to be as big as it is requested. I mean, if we have 19 feet, 3 inches, and this is the only portion of this.
You have all of this here because this is still the porch, and then you have the staircase that falls with it.
So it's to the end of the staircase.
That's correct.
Okay, and that's where we get our 4 feet. Okay.
I see.
Certainly wish that we had the applicant here to answer questions, but to me, it seems like we could put the stairs on the side of the porch, which
I think they were considering it. When I spoke with him, he was supposed to clarify and speak to the owner, but that was the last conversation I had with the builder. But he was gonna maybe suggest to have the staircase on the side, and he never had a chance to get back with me in that regards.
Would you know if they moved the stairs to the side and then we're only cantilevering 5 feet of the porch, or we're cantilevering 5 feet of the porch, roughly what that distance would be? Well, the question is, if they move the stairs to the side,
Yeah, you could put it on both
and then
sides.
we have a roof projection that is unsupported, so it's just cantilevered out.
Yeah.
It seems like the variance request could be half of what is being requested.
Yeah, more than likely. It's a little less than that 19.5 feet, I think. So if it would be a reduction of less, probably 10 feet or 9 feet.
That's what I'm thinking. The request would be a lot less. You've had an opportunity to speak, but I'd like to hear your comment. Would you just make it brief, please?
Absolutely. I think the word porch sounds very reasonable. I just want to clarify that you have the plans, and this is a porch that has supported by 50-foot driven pilings. So this exceeds what I think most people would think of as a porch. So an objection to a porch sounds harsh, but this is a porch with superstructure and driven 50-foot pilings.
Still looks
Okay. I only, just for clarification, I only have a plot plan. I'm not looking at
Okay.
the,
Understand.
okay,
I just thought it was helpful to clarify that about the porch.
thank you. All right, I see Mr. Daly has a comment.
Before we just say it's just 5 feet, it is elevated, and so, you know, the issue of the drainage of the water off, when it's a 5-foot overhang and it's up off the ground, it, you know, projects farther out, so, to the drainage point.
Okay. All right. I'd like to hear your comment, but please make it brief.
I don't know if that roof is 5 feet. It looks bigger than that. It's huge over it, and then the porch down below. And it seems like it's a whole lot bigger than what you're talking about. The other thing is the roof comes down to the back of the property, so all the rain hitting the roof comes back to that little bitty space between his house and the back of the house. So it's not like just the rain off the little roof, the little canopy, it's the whole back of the house.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm trying to see if one of these pictures shows that. Is this the projection? Yeah, okay. All right. Mr. Daly, are you
Yes,
you're
thank you.
finished? Okay.
Brookter had a motion.
Mr. Brookter?
Yes, I would like to make a motion that we postpone this case until our next meeting. Give the opposition time to rebuttal. We're trying to look at some situations, and we don't have quite the answers. And the only person that could do that is the person that's submitting this variance. So I make a motion to postpone to next meeting.
We have a motion to postpone. Have a second?
I second.
We have a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, would everyone please vote using your screens?
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Hopefully, yes.
Well, Mr. Leinart's made aware of that, and by permit, they will have to have an additional drainage inspection before any occupancy. All right. Moving forward, BOA case 2021-2390, request by applicant in an A4 single-family residential zoning district to reduce the required rear yard setback from 25 feet to 10 feet to allow for the renovation of an existing accessory building into a single-family residence. The property is located on the east side of Cherry Street, being Lot 7, Square 6, Slidell Manor subdivision, Slidell, Louisiana. The applicant is Kelly Dorgan. Staff comments, please.
As per the Unified Development Code, there shall be a rear yard having a depth of not less than 25 feet, plus 1 additional foot for every 1 foot in building height over 20 feet above the base flood elevation. The objective of the request is to allow for the renovation of an existing 1,100 square foot 2-story accessory building into a single-family residence. No hardship has been demonstrated to prevent the use of the existing structure as an accessory structure to the adjacent residence located on Lot 8. However, staff does not completely object to the request since the building is similar in size to other existing residences in the area. Considering that the structure is a legal non-conforming building, the total square footage could not be increased to more than 25%, and it would be subject to all other setback requirements of the A4 single-family residential zoning district.
Thank you. Are you the applicant?
Yes, sir.
Please state your full name and address, please.
My
for the
name is
record.
Kelly Dorgan, 3331 Bonfuca Drive, Slidell, Louisiana.
Thank you. Do you have anything else to add to the case?
No, sir. I just did a little history. I did an owner finance on the property in 2016. Bought it from an elderly gentleman who had purchased it for his daughter to redo after Katrina. It was unlivable and had an accessory structure. In 2018, I bought it outright from him and refurbished the property. I have it, it's a rental, it's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, it's fantastic. And I wanted to do the other one. That is an older subdivision. It's not, we have some new houses coming in there, but it needs a little maintaining, and I think that putting money in an area like that, investing in that, it's good for the future of Slidell and for me. So I don't see, since it's existing, I just request that you grant it.
Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to speak in opposition? Seeing none, does the board have any questions for the applicant? I do have a question for you. The building was existing on the property when you purchased?
Absolutely.
Okay. And you're simply trying to renovate that building?
Correct.
Did you purchase lot 7 and 8 at the same time?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. Daly?
Structure?
I think it's like 28 feet.
Okay. And then the new one would be the same height?
The existing structure is, the one that was remodeled in 2018 is a single story, so it's probably about 12 feet.
Okay.
The structure we're talking about was a garage, but is a 2-story, so it's about 28 feet.
Okay.
I might be off on that. 25 feet.
Your plan is to renovate for rental?
Yes, sir.
And it was 2-story, the garage, 2-story?
Yes, sir.
And what was the, do you know what the
I don't
use
know,
might be?
it had stairs and a loft, it had electricity. I'm not really sure what it was made to be, but it was there when I purchased it.
Okay. Thank you.
And had windows, too.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Thomas?
I'd like to make a motion to request or to approve the variance as requested.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, would everyone please vote using their screens?
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Moving on with old business. Mr. Valentine, I think you had some old business.
Yes, sir. Number 1 to the staff, I don't know, I can only think of a minimum number of times you haven't included an address with the cases, but there was one of them I had to guess at the address. And if you can, please include an address, because when I go out to look at them, you know, if I had to guess, then sometimes I'm out there, my wife and I are out there looking for a yellow sign. That's the only way we can find them.
And sometimes if I don't provide the address, it's because it was not existing or it was not provided, because I do my best. It helps a
I
lot.
know
That's
you
a
do.
fact.
All right, my second thing is, in the minutes, it says that the attendance, on board member attendance, that we can't miss 3 consecutive meetings or 4 in a year. So my question is, what is it? Is it immediate board removal without objection, without discussion? What are the consequences of this? And in a year means like in other words, if it's 4 in a year, the year could carry, it could be 12 months, it carries over between 2 years, is that correct?
So is it a calendar year, or does that year kind of fluctuate based on when you miss a meeting?
Well, that's my question. You know, if you were out July and August in 2021, and then you also missed February and March of 2022, I would think that's grounds for removal from the board.
I guess we'd have to check the bylaws on that one and defer to.
Well, there was a broader discussion about setting out the bylaws to review. So that's sort of an action item to send those around to the board to review, to see if we want to alter anything.
Yeah, and Helen and I have been going back and forth comparing our versions. I think we have a clean version that is consistent with the version approved by the Parish Council back in, I think, 2013. So Helen should be getting those out to y'all soon. We just had some odd formatting issues because they were in an old version of Word. But I mean, generally, unless it's defined otherwise in the law, when it says a year, it's talking about a calendar year, January 1 to December 31. But that's something that we can look at in the bylaws. I don't see anything by operation of law that automatically removes someone where we would say, you know, you're replaced. But as the secretary of the board, Ross, I think would bring that to the attention of administration and to the council to possibly reappoint for that position if someone is repeatedly absent. But there's no mechanism by law which automatically removes the person from the board. But again, as Mr. Daly said, I think that it would be helpful if everyone reviewed these bylaws. They haven't been updated since 2013 to see if there is clarification that's needed or if anything that needs to change.
Good?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any further old business? Mr. Spees?
I just want to comment, being that I'm an alternate, and it's real weird sitting here when you can't vote. Real weird. And I just want to let everybody know what I'm thinking about.
Mr. Spees.
Yeah.
Sit at the table with me, or whoever alternates at that particular time, just sit at the table with me. You're an alternate.
Mr. Spees, just a little from my personal experience, I think I was appointed to the board for almost 2 years, if not a bit longer, and as an alternate member, and most of the members were present. So I can appreciate your position. But what I learned from those 2 years of sitting here was invaluable when finally, you know, we had a resignation and I was able to sit on the board, and certainly appreciated it. But just getting an understanding of the board and what you know, what the tendencies of the board were, and, you know, for example, things like this, the car drive, you know, we heard so many of those cases where I became more familiar with what was typical and what we were going to hear. So it did have value to me, although at times I would agree it was frustrating that I couldn't express my opinion or vote. And certainly, you know, I appreciate the fact that you're here and in attendance, because, you know, at times someone, and we have had someone have to leave during a meeting, and we needed that alternate during the meeting. You know, just because everyone is here at the beginning doesn't mean that, you know, someone will be. So it's certainly appreciated, and I do understand your concern.
Thank you. Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I'd like to add a comment. You're welcome to participate and ask questions and comment.
No, I can't.
No.
Oh,
I was just
because
told-
Jesse Perry used to participate regularly.
Well,
Well, we'll review the bylaws then.
yeah, well, we can review the bylaws, but I think
Yeah.
you're referring to back when we did, and Jesse was on the board, and he did actively participate. And then I think he was asked to, you know, please refrain. And that goes back several.
That's a long
legal
time ago.
counsel, a long time ago. But that's when I first became an alternate member of the board, and that did occur. And during that time period, I can remember I didn't ask many questions. I was new, but Mr. Perry was an active participant, and he certainly was asked to refrain during that time.
You know, I would welcome Dewey's participation, just like I welcomed Jesse. You know, he was good, and he contributed.
This is not anything that's set out in our code of ordinances or even the bylaws. This is something that's set out by state law in the revised statute. It says the Board of Adjustment shall consist of 5 members and may include 2 alternate members. Then in another provision, it says the alternate members shall serve when called upon to comprise a 5 full-member board. And when serving in a full position, they shall have the powers and duties of regular members. So unless they are serving in their capacity as a regular member, the alternate cannot participate and they cannot be voting. And it also creates confusion for the applicants and the members of the public when an alternate is participating in the discussion and isn't voting. And again, that's not something that's set out by the parish code or by the bylaws, that's in state law.
So could I go there and sign up and go to the microphone as a citizen and just talk about something? I mean, could I do that?
I mean, I would talk to the secretary of the board about that and certain impartiality and bias concerns that may arise if you're participating as a member of the public. But if it's a case that you, as a member of the public, would want to tell Ross that you're not going to be participating as an alternate member of the Board of Adjustments and going to be sitting out in the audience and participating as an audience member, that may be something that could be done, but you might want to talk to the secretary of the board about that in the position that it puts the parish in.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other old business? Any new business?
How many cases?
We
Mr.
have
Brookton?
2 so far,
Oh, okay.
plus the one that was postponed, the 2 that were postponed.
Okay. Any other new business? Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion to adjourn. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.